Where there's amazing men, there are just as many amazing women. Here, we're going to delve a bit into some of the more incredible women who not only impacted those around them, but the world as a whole. These women range from scientists to pilots, writers to activists, and they all have one thing in common. They were awesome. Let's begin, shall we? This is Women Who Worked It. 12. Amelia Earhart. First of all, did you know that Amelia Earhart didn't even begin flying until she was 24 years old? But once she climbed into that cockpit, it was love at first flight. She quickly climbed the ranks for female pilots, and by just the next year, 1922, she set a world record for highest altitude achieved by a female pilot. She continued to break records throughout her flying career, and in 1928, she became the first woman to make a flight across the Atlantic, although she was just a passenger. That time, in 1932, she set her most significant and most well-known record by flying solo across the Atlantic, which made her the first woman ever to do so. She broke record after record in the following years, until she set off on her around-the-world flight in 1937. She made 22,000 out of about 29,000 miles of her trip before disappearing somewhere over the Pacific and was never seen nor heard from again. 11. Princess Diana. Charles, Prince of Wales, married a young lady named Diana Spencer in 1981, and it quickly became apparent that she was going to be one important woman. The marriage was a huge deal, with roughly 700 million people watching it on TV, and it made Diana something of a star. The famed couple had 2 children, William and Harry, but the marriage didn't last, and Diana and Charles divorced in 1996. Diana became incredibly invested in charity work and was very outspoken in the fights against cancer, HIV/AIDS, leprosy, and more, and even helped lead the way in cleaning up landmines left behind by war. She is one of the most popular and adored princesses in the history of the royal family, and her legacy and contributions will live on forever. 10. Boadicea. This fearless woman was a queen who wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty and led her British Celtic Iceni tribe in an uprising against the Roman Empire that was occupying Britain. She first led a very successful campaign and drove the Romans out of multiple cities and took care of anyone that didn't leave in time. But while the initial campaign was a success, the Romans rallied and then came back at Boadicea's forces hard. She suffered a terrible defeat, losing around 80,000 warriors in a location that is still unknown today. And one account says she took her own life with poison before she could be captured. Other reports say she fell ill and perished. Nobody knows for sure. 9. Jane Austen. Austen was a prolific novelist and achieved great fame while she was alive, and has held on to that fame after death. She wrote 6 main novels, which have all been critically acclaimed and have rarely fallen out of print, as well as many other works. Sense and Sensibility, anyone? How about Pride and Prejudice? Mansfield Park? Her works have earned wide acclaim among scholars and the general public alike, and she sold many copies of all her books worldwide. Unfortunately, Austen passed away on July 18, 1817, and had multiple novels published posthumously. She was also in the midst of writing more than one book when she passed, and they were never finished. Austen's works have been adapted into many plays and movies, and they've even seen other authors write sequels, prequels, and other stories set in the worlds that she envisioned. 8. Eleanor of Aquitaine. This woman not only married one king, but 2, from 2 different countries, thus solidifying her place in history. Her father, William X, passed away, and just 3 months later, she married King Louis VII of France. They didn't work out and got their marriage annulled, and as soon as the annulment went through, she became engaged to the Duke of Normandy. But he didn't stay the Duke of Normandy, and later became King Henry II of England. She was jailed by her second husband when she supported a revolt by their son, Henry, and spent 16 years in prison. Then, Henry II passed away, leaving the throne for the couple's second son, Richard the Lionheart, who ended up releasing her from her imprisonment. She played an essential part in the medieval histories of both France and England, thus earning her a spot as one of the most important women in history. 7. Mary Wollstonecraft. Wollstonecraft was an advocate who won fame through her work with women's rights. She was also a writer and a philosopher, which aided in the formation of her ideas and pushed her to become one of the first true feminists. She wrote all kinds of things throughout her short life, including a book for children, a conduct book, treatises, novels, and even a book about the French Revolution. She was one of the first to point out that women may not be naturally less intelligent than men, but that it might be so due to their lack of access to education. She envisioned a society where men and women were treated equally, as rational beings, and tried to help push for a social order based upon reason. She, unfortunately, passed away at just 38, but she left behind a legacy which paved the way for women and feminists today. 6. Florence Nightingale. If you're a nurse, a doctor, or anyone else in the medical field, chances are you know who Florence Nightingale is. She was not only the founder of modern nursing we know today, but also a British statistician and a social reformer. She trained countless nurses during the course of the Crimean War and won notoriety for her work with soldiers. She boosted the views on nursing, giving it a favorable view, and gained iconic status as the Lady with the Lamp. Pretty much all nursing today stems from Nightingale's work, and she produced many important documents to help spread medical knowledge. She has a pledge and the highest award a nurse can receive named after her, as well as International Nurses Day, being celebrated on her birthday. 5. Angela Burdette Koontz. This infamous woman was known as the richest heiress in England, but she put it to good use and dedicated her life to philanthropy. She inherited her grandfather's fortune in 1837 when her step-grandmother passed away. The fortune was, at the time, worth roughly £1.8 million. An equivalent number today would be about £160 million. Burdette Koontz was friends with both Charles Dickens and the Duke of Wellington, a man she proposed marriage to. She was a pretty daring and open soul. This was also apparent in her openness in having a relationship with the former governess, Hannah Brown, until Brown passed away in 1878. Most of her life and money was devoted to philanthropic causes, including getting scholarships and endowments. She was even made a baroness by Queen Victoria for her donating and work towards helping the poor. 4. Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks' name is synonymous with courage and confidence, and is a woman that women of all colors can look up to. We all remember the story about her getting kicked off of the bus in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955, which helped her attain a status of international icon. This iconic status got her in with some of the biggest names in the civil rights movement, and gave her the opportunity to collaborate and organize events with some of those giants. She was, at the time of her arrest, the president of her local NAACP chapter and had just attended a school that trained activists for racial equality and workers' rights. Her willingness to become not just a controversial figure in the fight for equality, but a hated woman by many, is admirable. She has received an incredible number of awards for her actions, both while still alive and posthumously, and her fight to change things in the United States and her martyrdom earned her a spot on our list. 3. Emmeline Pankhurst. Pankhurst was a very influential and important British suffragette and political activist in the late 1800s and early 1900s. She played a vital role in women winning their right to vote, and was named on Time magazine's 100 Most Important People of the 20th Century list. She wasn't always super democratic about achieving her goals. In fact, she used militant tactics with her organization, the Women's Social and Political Union, to get her point across. But no one's ever argued that they didn't work. They would smash windows and vandalize in all kinds of other ways, assault officers of the law, and she, her daughters, and other members of the WSPU were arrested on different occasions for doing, well, crazy things. She unfortunately passed away on June 14, 1928, just a few weeks prior to the government giving all women over the age of 21 the right to vote. 2. Marie Stopes. Marie Stopes was an interesting lady. She was a British paleobotanist and an advocate for women's rights and eugenics, two things that didn't seem to have much to do with one another. She made it onto the staff of the University of Manchester and was the first female to ever do so, and she made significant contributions to the classification of coal, as well as the paleontology of plants. But perhaps what she was most well known for came next. She and her second husband opened Britain's very first birth control clinic. She authored what basically equates to a sex manual and edited a birth control newsletter, causing much controversy as it brought birth control out into the open. In the end, she was able to open 6 of her clinics and aided in bringing the matter of sex, birth control, abortion, and many others out of the bedroom and into the world. We've seen some pretty incredible women so far, and we still have our top spot to go. But first, we have to ask, are there any women who have inspired you? Any standouts that you think we missed? Why did they impact you the way they did? Let us know in the comments below so we can keep them in mind for future videos. 1. Marie Curie. Curie was a phenomenal woman who literally made world-changing discoveries, and she did so not once, but twice. She was both a chemist and physicist, and pioneered research on radioactivity that led to an overhaul of much of physics at the time. She and her husband, famed scientist Pierre Curie, discovered the elements polonium and radium. She, Pierre, and Henri Becquerel were awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1903 for their work contributing to the study of radiation. The award was huge, considering she was the first woman in history to win it. She helped to further the development of X-rays after her husband's passing in 1906, and she took a position as a professor at the University of Paris, the same professor position which had been created for her husband. She came across many difficulties, and suffered from many attempts to sabotage her reputation, but that didn't stop her from furthering her work and contributing to the scientific community. In 1911, she won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry, thus becoming the first person, man or woman, to ever win 2 Nobel Prizes. During the Second World War, she and her daughter installed countless X-ray machines in ambulances, and estimates put those treated at over 1 million. Wow. If you enjoyed this video, do us a giant favor and give it a like. Subscribe to our channel below, or by clicking on our logo right here, so that you can keep up with all of our excellent uploads. And check out this next video that we know you're going to love.